Yeah, this is a perfect example of having certain fights marinate and wait for the right moment and not wait too long. Like you, perfect example you made. Another one that it was Mayweather against Pacquiao. This Crawford against Terrence Crawford against Errol Spence. I mean, these fights that are waiting too long to happen. I mean, it's just sad. It sucks because they're not gonna fight each other at their prime, at their moment. And this is it, man. This is the fight that it's just right. I mean, from every angle, it's just perfect.
Welcome to the RBR recap presented by Round Boxing. I'm Alex Burgos, joined by three-time world champion, Showtime's main man, and one of our favorites, Abner. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good, brother. Thank you so much for having
Good,
me on.
good. Yeah, man. I'm glad it's fight week. A long time coming for David Benavidez and Caleb Plant.
Yeah,
Super excited about this fight. And I just want to jump right into it, man, and talk to you a little bit about something you said in the past and something that kind of resonated with me and going back and kind of digging up old stuff about this fight.
okay.
And you said at one point, it's like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, that this was the fight to make for fight fanatics. And one thing I like
Right.
to kind of break down and look at is sometimes we get fights, and one that always comes to mind for me is like Gamboa and Juan Manuel Lopez back in the day, that Bob
Mm.
Arum was always like, we're going to let it marinate. She marinated too much, and then it just never happened. This one, I think, marinated enough, the bad blood boiled, and now we're here. It's super exciting. Do you think allowing this thing to kind of progressively get hotter and hotter has made it a bigger fight and a bigger profile?
Yeah, this is a perfect example of having certain fights marinate and wait for the right moment and not wait too long. Like you, perfect example you made. Another one that it was Mayweather against Pacquiao. This Crawford against Terrence Crawford against Errol Spence. I mean, these fights that are waiting too long to happen. I mean, it's just sad. It sucks because they're not gonna fight each other at their prime, at their moment. And this is it, man. This is the fight that it's just right. I mean, from every angle, it's just perfect. I mean, aside from that both fighters stylistically match up, the bad blood between them two, the trash talking, a lot of just personal issues between them two that make this fight just that much more exciting. So yeah, I mean, there's many reasons to be excited about this fight, of course.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think this is one good example. And I think also a good example, for maybe some of the fighters up and coming, it's like Caleb Plant. You could take a loss and then you can
Right.
still come back and do big things.
Yeah.
You can prove that, you have new wrinkles in your game like he did in a big way against Anthony Durrell. So it shows a lot of different kind of levels of boxing that I think people should pay attention to. Now, moving more towards the style of the fight and, the age-old adage, styles make fights and all
Right.
that good stuff. I think a lot of the breakdowns I've seen, and it may be just this easy, but a lot of the breakdowns are just like Benavidez is going to walk him down, or Caleb Plant is going to be able to outbox him. Do you see that,
Right.
or do we need to dig a little bit deeper, like how this fight might go?
I mean, yeah, I think we got to dig a little bit, lot more deeper. I mean,
Mhm.
because you got to understand that us fighters, we ain't dumb. We ain't stupid.
Right.
We know exactly what we're gonna face. So you read exactly, how fight fans are basically digesting and particularly, putting this fight as you just mentioned. This fight's either gonna be the boxer, the jab, the great movement from Caleb Plant, or the stronger guy, the Mexican monster like Dave Benavidez is. But if I'm Caleb Plant and I'm listening, I'm like, obviously, I'm going to have a game plan for that,
Yeah.
and vice versa as David Benavidez. Actually, I heard in the recent interview about David saying that, hey, I'm not just going to look for one punch. I'm actually going to do a different type of fights. So you don't know what to expect. Obviously, we could just assume that's what can happen. I mean, looking at this fight from the outside, I mean, it's either the strong big puncher like Benavidez walking this guy down, or the finesse boxer like Caleb Plant is. But listen, one thing that I have to point out is that, and this my guy, I like, and I'm not biased, and David Benavidez is a great friend of mine, good fighter, but man, he's got to keep his hands up. He brings his hands down a lot. Yes, he's a monster. He can walk you down, but hey, you make one mistake. We saw what happened with Jarrell Anthony Durrell in that fight. One mistake, one hook. That's all it took. You know, Caleb Plant has got that power. So it's not as easy as people, paint it to be. Some people will be like, yeah, easy fight for David Benavidez, just walk him down. Nah, this more than that. And same thing with Caleb Plant. You know, he's got to be careful with the heavy shots that, David Benavidez is going to be looking for. And we know that Caleb Plant is capable of doing that early on. We saw it against Canelo Alvarez. You know, he was moving around really good. Great jab. But, I mean, that's the beauty of boxing. You just don't know what to expect nowadays, especially with so much technology now, doing your homework, strength conditioning. I mean, these guys are in top shape right now, both physically and I'm sure mentally, because it's a lot of mental game coming into this fight, because there was so much said, leading up to this fight from both sides.
Yeah, for sure. You said a lot of good things there, and I agree as well. I mean, I think we're going to have to see some new wrinkles from Benavidez. Yeah. Does the defense tighten up? Probably from Caleb Plant also. Yeah, we got the one knockout, the big one against Durrell, but can he, show that against now a step above in competition? And I think you make a good point. Make him miss, make him pay. We've seen Caleb over time make him miss a lot. But if he's going to start sitting down in his punches and look, and, even talking to Breadman a little bit, Caleb can crack, and he may show it more in training than he has in actual fights. But now working with Breadman, we may see a little bit more of that, staying in the pocket.
And you got to wait for the right time too. I think Caleb Plant did it perfectly with Durrell. Yeah. I mean, he waited towards the later rounds where the power is not as heavy, as powerful, and he sat down on those punches, and we saw what happened.
Yeah, and frustrated Durrell, for that first half of that fight, where maybe lulled him to sleep a little bit. It was like, oh, I'm coming right at you. I want to knock you out. Caught him with his hands down. Good night.
Yes, sir.
And that's what you say. Yeah, with Benavidez, I mean, he does have to tighten it up a little bit, because he's so offensive minded, and a lot of times that puts mental pressure on the fighter. Trying to get a guy off of you exerts you physically as well. So something interesting to watch there. I got to give a shout out. I know Tyson gave him the Mexican Monster nickname, but he's I think his mom is from Ecuador too. So shout out to Ecuador too. Yeah, you have a little bit in the power department, I guess. We got to give you props too. But yeah, I want to transition also into some of what you've done in your career. And, I always think, obviously the early stuff, the Agbeko fights, and just a big fan of yours, and the Leo fights obviously was a rivalry and fan friendly and stuff like that. But I remember reading something, I believe it was after the second one, the second Leo fight, but where you were banking those early rounds. And I think your corner was like, we want you to box. We don't want you to fight that way. But it seemed like you were winning that fight, and then you changed styles. Do you think a fighter has to have that in their ability to be able to make a decision and be like, hey, this is maybe not what I planned, but it's working, and continue to go with that and be able to adjust in a fight? Kind of applying it to this one.
100%. I mean, the mental game is everything. I mean, you get the emotions get the best of you, and I think that's what happened to me in that first fight. I was so wanted the fight so bad. I went in there banging so hard the first couple of rounds. I exhausted myself physically and mentally. And then that's what I talk about, and I am going to talk about it. The opening of the card is that when you come into a fight physically constant, so take it so personal. You just want to beat this guy so bad, like Benavidez says, oh, I'm gonna take this, send this guy to the hospital, and so much anger that exhausts you. That tires you out. And it's people you don't realize sometimes until you're inside the ring. I'm like, shoot, why am I getting tired? I train super hard for this, many months of training camp, and I'm getting tired. I'm draining myself. But that's the physical, the mental part, where you're focused too much on the mental stage, that you're trying to throw punches and you just don't hit. And I think that's what happened to me when I fought Leo Santa Cruz. I just tightened up too much. And when my coach did tell me start boxing, I did try to do it, but it just didn't work out. My punches weren't as long as, we know that Leo Santa Cruz, had that reach. So, and then when I tried to get back into the fight that I had started and was doing good in, it was already too late, So things like that. I think that Dave Benavidez just has to be aware of that, not to be forget about everything that was said prior to his fight, and just focus on the plan and just execute exactly that inside the ring once a bell rings.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. It's going to be interesting to see how he handles those emotions, because obviously he wants to try to back up. He says he's not going to be happy unless he knocks him out. But he's got to be ready and willing to be able to win a fight, you know, even if it's by decision. So a lot on the line for both guys. But I also want to talk about you as a broadcaster, and we got to chop it
Right.
up with Raul Marquez not too long ago, and you know I was telling him the same thing. You know, it's not lost on me, you know, being Latino, and then also, you know, in communications and broadcasting and journalism and stuff, to see you guys, high level fighters, you know, at the top of your games, and then transition and do this broadcasting thing so well. It's incredible to see. So kudos to you, man. And
Oh, thank you.
you inspire people to be able to do multiple things and at a high level. But I want you to touch on the type of preparation, because obviously, you know, from a fighter perspective, what it takes to get in the ring and be a champion. But it's a lot of preparation, right? To become prepared for like a fight card.
Yeah,
You,
man.
you got
I
like
mean,
Colbert and Rayo. You got other big fights. You
I
got to do
got
your
like 4
homework.
fights. Yeah.
Yeah, talk about that.
So yeah, well, I do want to talk about it, you know, and I when I do find the chance when people ask me and tell me, hey, yo, champ, it's probably so easy for you because you know you practice the sport and you know it's like a you know it's a perfect you know the perfect job. Yes, it is the perfect job. I'm blessed. I'm thankful. I'm in the big fights, but at the same time, you know, it's hard work. Also, you know, you
Mhm.
prepare. We get emails to prepare about you know. I got from this one. I'm already preparing for the next one
Yeah.
and so on. And yeah, a lot of homework yesterday. I was just studying. You know, you got to watch videos. Certain things that fighters do, you got to write them down so you can talk about that. You can't just go in there raw and not know exactly who you're talking about. You don't want to sound stupid. You know, you want to
Right.
know exactly who you're talking about. Like you mentioned, it's not just one fight. There's many fighters, many styles. And I mean, you know, I'm one of the many fighters that I don't watch boxing much, bro. If it's
Mhm.
not the ones that I'm calling, I really don't watch. Or a big fight, I'm not really watching a lot of these fights. But now that I'm, you know, I'm blessed to be doing what I'm doing, the broadcasting, the commentating. I got to do my homework, man. A lot of studying, a lot of memorizing the names, the pronunciation of the names. You know, just all around, you know, just that. I go and watch old videos of, you know, commentators and, you know, try to, you know, pick up certain things from them as well. So that's what it is, man. I'm new to this. I'm the rookie. I'm, you know, right next to these two monsters like Al Bernstein and Mauro Ronaldo. I mean, two great guys that have been helping me, you know, get Brian Cusser as well, you know, to where I am today and even more. So I want to thank them, Steven Espinosa, obviously from Showtime, you know, the whole Showtime crew. Thank you guys, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. And who better to be surrounded than I was gonna say by Morrow and Al
Yeah.
and you know Custer too. Yeah, I mean, great team, and I think you guys bring a good element to the fight
Yeah,
from
my
a fan
producer
perspective as well.
David Dankins, obviously thank him so much, man. And another thing you pointed out, you know, the fact that I'm Latino, you know, I'm 100% Mexican and doing this commentary in English, you know,
Mhm.
not in Spanish, English. My second language is not my first language, so blessed to be doing that. And like you said, motivate other Latinos, Hispanics, you know, that you know, hey, you know, you could be part of it too. You could, you
Right,
know, you could be there as well. So you know, it's also that you know, I have that, you know, behind me. I have to, you know, I have to show up for my people also, you know.
for sure, man. You're doing a great job. Yeah, no, salute to you. And like I
Thank you,
said, I
man.
mean, it's a joy to watch you and to get to hear you break down fights and stuff like that. And really looking forward to the one this weekend.
Thank you,
Other
man.
than the main event, you know, I touched on Colbert and Rayo, but
Mario.
what's one of the other ones that you're looking forward to?
Honestly, we have a really stacked, really competitive card where, you know, we honestly talk and touch about these fights and we really don't know which way to go because I mean they're that much and that well competitive fights, you know, even matchups. The co-main, like you mentioned, Rayo, Valenzuela, you know, that guy. They're both in similar situations, you know, both
Yeah.
similar you know, both coming back from tough defeats, both young, both happen to have, you know, the defeats. But when we talk to them on the fighter meetings, they both touch about that they let everything, the fame and you know being undefeated get to them, and they don't prepare how they needed to for each individual fight that they lost. So
Hmm.
now that lets you know, like, yo, they're really in the crossroad type of fight. Like either you win or you back, you know, to the back of the line. So I mean that fight is going to be fireworks, and you know both punchers, fighters, great boxers. So I mean, all around good fights, man.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited about that one because, like you said, the storyline of them coming back and really at a
Mm-hmm.
crossroads for both. Even though both are young,
Mm-hmm.
obviously you can come back from
Yeah.
a loss or two, whatever. But it says a lot that they want to take on that challenge so quickly after their first pro defeat. So super interesting in that one. But it kind of transitions into another thing I wanted to ask you about, which is you're cut from a certain cloth. Somebody like I was mentioning, Raul's cut from a cloth where you guys just fought. You just fought the best. Didn't matter if you won, you lost. After an Abner Mares fight, I'm like, cool, okay, who can Abner fight next? If you won, you lost. Then you wanted to see you again. And I think that some of that is lost with the newer generation, obviously, because it's more of a quote unquote business. Obviously, we got Tank and Ryan. I think even you can throw Colbert and Rayo in there. I mean, these type of fights, Benavidez and Caleb, obviously, these are the type of fights that need to happen. And I don't think either guy loses regardless of what the outcome of the fight is. I mean, what would you say to up and comers who obviously, you want to protect your career from a business perspective, but also you got to, you got to fight the best.
You know what? And I'm new to watching the sport of basketball. I just started watching basketball this year, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a Laker fan, obviously being from LA, but I just became like a fan. Started watching, started picking up on names and teams and all that this year. And what I realized, and I was reading, is that it's similar to boxing. What's happening? A lot of these, so-called superstars aren't willing to play the whole game because they want to tire each other out.
Yeah,
they want to save each other for the next game and things like that. And when you compare them to like even the Kobe Bryant, the Michael Jordans, the Scottie Pippens, like these great, they were rough. And even the perfect example, and I was so mad, the All-Star game, man, that was brutal to watch, bro. That was like a show exhibition, bro. Kept missing threes and like, man, I was so frustrated. They really didn't put 100. So now talking about boxing, it's the same thing. Boxers nowadays, they want to look pretty now. They want social media, models, and like they don't concentrate 100% to the sport, and they're more worried about what they're gonna make in sponsors, and I don't blame them. The money's there. You can't blame the fact that nowadays that's what pays. Unfortunately. Before it was the rugged looking guy, that got all the fame because, how he fought. Now is like the good looking kid or the well-spoken guy or the guy that has a storyline behind him, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it's starting to little by little pick up. Obviously, we could go and talk about the management, the promotions, not wanting to work one another, but it's starting to pick up. You mentioned, Ryan Garcia against Tank Davis, obviously big matchup that honestly we didn't think that was going to happen so soon, and I'm glad it is. Haney against Lomachenko. I mean, another great fight right now that's happening. Fulton against Inoue. Unfortunately, that got a little pushed, because I think Inoue got injured. Like you mentioned, Colbert against Rayo. So I mean, right now, it's starting to look better little by little. So people that are saying that boxing is dead, definitely is not. They ain't paying close attention to the fact that it is coming back, and all these big matchups are coming up and coming through.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a funny statement that I think I'll say casuals make a lot. Boxing is dead, or whatever. Yeah. But now, if you pay attention, and I hope some of this lays the groundwork for other bigger matchups that we want to see.
Exactly.
With other guys, to take that jump and that test. I mean, you mentioned.
And another thing I wanted to point out, I'm sorry to interrupt, is that a lot of people giving Canelo Alvarez a hard time for taking on Ryder, in this matchup. I'm like, man, tough crowd, man. This guy's coming from fighting like the top, back to back to back. And I think with a little bit of that, I blame on the fact that he lost against Bivol. I don't want to 100% Bivol was way better than him, but this guy came from big fights, fight after fight, and the body gets tired too. Right. So him wanting to take on on not a pushover, because Ryder's not a bad fighter, but wanting to please his crowd in his hometown in Guadalajara. I mean, you gotta give it to him, and numbers speak for itself, and things already sold out. So
right. Yeah, I mean, if anyone deserves that homecoming and against a fighter that he's picking, it's Canelo, based on those last 5-6 fights.
100%,
I mean,
100%.
Something that we touched on this show a couple episodes ago, man. It's like, tough crowd. It's like
this guy, man.
Yeah, and not only that, the weight that he had to put on the face of Bivol.
I hate to compare, bro, but the UFC fans to the boxing fans are way better, man. Yeah, and I'm speaking how it is. Yeah. UFC fighters, they got like 5, 60 feet, and people still right behind him. You know, look at McGregor. Look at all these other fighters. You know what I'm saying? They lose, they come back. You know, that's how it is. And in boxing, you lose. Oh, you suck. You're the worst. We never want to see him fight again.
Exactly. And you know what they always say? He got exposed. He got exposed. Like that's everyone's favorite. Man. It's like no.
Tyson. How many times did he not lose? You know, Chavez. Right. You know, all these greats. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I agree with you, man. I mean, there's a lot of good to look at, and I think people need to pay attention to that. Obviously, we can beat the drum for fights that we want to see. Yeah. Fury Usyk is one that, you know, just having trouble getting made, but whatever. I mean, there's always going to be a little bit of that, but we got to take the bad with the good as well, and hopefully we'll see more of those big ones.
Yeah. You got Andy Ruiz and Deontay Wilder knocking on that door, so hopefully they let one of them. Either of them in, so I'll be going.
Yeah, that'll be incredible
with Tyson Fury. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Well, not to keep you too much longer, I do want to wrap this up with one important question, which is, if you have to pick Benavidez versus Plant, who are you taking? And I know once upon a time I've read, you know, that you're thinking Benavidez walks him down, probably beats him, but you could see Plant winning as well. If you had to pick today,
right?
Who are you picking?
You know, I really don't like to make predictions, obviously, you know, because of what I do, what I work, and I don't want people to think that, you know, I'm biased and I'm picking just one. So I'm gonna leave that boom as it is. But I do love to break down fights. I think it's gonna be stylistically match up a great, you know, smart IQ type of fight. And you know, the best fighter is gonna win. I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but it is exactly that. I think the smarter fighter that night is gonna be the winner. You know, not the big guy, not the tough guy, not the powerful guy, and not the guy that uses the whole ring. I mean, but the guy that, you know, is one step ahead of the other. I mean, I think that's exactly what's gonna happen. That's gonna be the winner.
All right. Well, we look forward to it, man. We look forward to hearing you on the call as well, and we appreciate your time. And hopefully we can chop it up again soon.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me on, man. Anytime.
Yeah, no problem, man. Take care.
You take care, brother.
Thank you for listening to the RBR Recap. Make sure to follow us on social media at RBR Recap and visit RBRrecap.com for the latest episodes.